Hey, Shalom, Malcolm Shalom. First and foremost, as always, I would like to give all praise, all honor, and all glory unto Yahweh, Bahashem Yahweh Shai, Bahashem Merchakudash. I would like to give double honors to the apostles, the bishops, and the elders of Great Millstone that taught us this truth and that's still teaching this truth, and much peace, love, and salutation to the elect, beginning with 144,000, all the way down to the large multitude that believes, and who the Lord will deliver in these last days. To you all I say Shalom. I'm the brother Tazamah from the Great Millstone Dallas camp, coming back today with another lesson, and I pray this lesson will be edifying to the elect. And I want to do a lesson entitled, or going into something along the lines of energy lockdowns, or lockdowns 2.0. All right, and the energy crisis that's taking place within the Middle East, you know, in these particular countries in Europe. But you have Thailand, I want to say, and the Philippines as well. That's rationing their oil. You know, you have frenzies that are happening at fuel stations. And I want to say that the Philippines are in a national emergency because they have about 45 days or 40 days left of oil left. 45 days of oil left, if I'm not mistaken. You know, so this whole issue between Israel and Iran and the United States, and the closure of the Strait. I say closure and Strait at the same time, Salaki, but the closure of the Strait of Hormuz, as well as the possible closure of the Suez Canal over there in the Red Sea. That's going to lead to major disruptions. It's already an oil disruption going on with only just the Strait of Hormuz, but you know, you had the Houthis, all right, that attacked or shot a missile at Israel, or that attacked Israel, which that, you know, could that have been a double F by the tiny tops? Very well could have been, you know, because ultimately these devils, what they want to do is they want to crash this economy and crash this system and usher in the new digital system, which is going to be ultimately a microchip implanted underneath your skin, which is the mark of the beast. All right, but before they do that, they need complete and total chaos to erupt in these streets and in these in these various different countries and in these streets, ultimately for them to usher in their new world order. All right, and we've been saying, beginning with the apostles, the bishops, and the elders on down, all right, that America will be eventually locked down. And what happened in 2019 or 2020 with the COVID-19, that was all just a shock test, or a test drive, or test run, if you will. All right, for them to go forth with their enterprise. Okay, let's get Micah chapter 2 real quick. All right, this is Micah chapter 2, verse 1. It says, "Woe to them that devise iniquity and work evil upon their beds." And that's just talking about the global elite. All right, that the earth is given into their hand, and the power of it, you know, ultimately it was given to them by Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shai to play the wicked. But you know, they have all the power and all the time on their hands to be able to enact wicked devices. Right, so it says, "Woe to them that devise iniquity and work evil upon their beds. When the morning is light, they practice it, because it is in the power of their hand." You see that? So they devise these wicked schemes, you know, and they devise these particular plans with, you know, because to devise something means to plan it out. And then when the morning is light, they practice it. They do it. You know, that's why they have what's called an agenda. You know, when you have an agenda, it's something that's already written out. And then they just play it out. You know, they have something called Agenda 2030. You know, and it looks like they're moving faster than that. You know, but the scripture says that the devil shall come down with great wrath, because he knows that he has but a short time. You see, it says, and they covet fields and take them by violence, and that's how Esau gets down. You know, he'll devise these wicked, crafty devices to ultimately do land grabs. You know, that's what you've seen happen in Hawaii. You've seen that happen in LA. You know, you have these wildfires that are happening in Nebraska, you know, and Esau's been doing this for a millennium. You know, he's been doing this for a very, very long time. I mean, how the hell do you think America was established? It was established by rape, robbery, and murder and bloodshed. All right, lies and deceit. Right, so it says, and they covet fields and take them by violence, and houses and take them away. So they oppress a man in his house, even a man in his heritage. You see, but in order for them to do that, they have to plan these wicked devices, and then they go out and they play it out. That's why the scripture says in Psalm 64 that the heart is deep. Okay, let's get 2nd Ezra 15 real quick. This is 2nd Ezra chapter 15, and really this whole chapter is a banger. All right, but just for the sake of time, I'm gonna get straight to the points here. This is 2nd Ezra 15 and 12. All right, it says Egypt shall mourn, and that Egypt here spiritually is talking about America. All right. Revelation, the 11th chapter, says that their dead bodies shall lie in the street of the great city, which is spiritually called Sodom in Egypt. Okay. And how America is Egypt all over again today is due to the, first and foremost, the heavy slavery that took place here in America. We served heavy bondage and slavery in Egypt. These people still serving these Egyptian gods, the Egyptian customs and way is still enacted here. All right, so we're living spiritually in Egypt all over again. It says, Egypt shall mourn, and the foundation of it shall be smitten with the plague and punishment that the Most High shall bring upon it. And one of those plagues that the Lord is going to bring upon it is going to be the plague of famine. Okay, the plague of famine, the plague of pestilence. All right, the sword. Okay, wild, the teeth of wild beasts to tear. Okay, death and destruction, right? They that till the ground shall mourn. All right, and another major resource, if you will, that goes through the Strait of Hormuz is fertilizer. So you're going to have a lot of nations and countries that aren't going to be able to fertilize their crops to be able to plant their crops. So that can also cause a great disruption to the food industry as well. It says, they that till the ground shall mourn, for their seed shall fail through the blasting and hail, and with a fearful constellation. You see, and you have a lot of economists and a lot of farmers and things of that nature that are in fear due to the things that they're seeing coming upon the planet Earth right now. It says, woe to the world and them that dwell therein. And that word woe means destruction. It says, for the sword and the sword and their destruction draweth nigh, and one people shall stand up and fight against another in swords in their hands. You see that? So there's going to be a great insurrection internally. You're going to have a lot of civil unrest that's going to take place. It says, for there shall be sedition among men and invading one another. All right, you're going to have a lot of people invading one another's lands, one another's goods. All right. They shall not regard their kings nor princes. In the course of their actions shall stand in their power. A man shall desire to go into a city and shall not be able. See that? And that's a lockdown right there. Let's read that again. A man shall desire to go into a city and shall not be able. All right. So what we seen happen, all right, in 2020 with those energy lockdown, or excuse me, with the whole COVID 19 lockdowns due to the quote unquote sickness that took place. Once again, that was just a test. That was a test run. All right, that was just a test run based upon what they're getting ready to do. Okay, because these energy lockdowns it's going to be way worse. It's going to be far worse, and you ain't going to be having no energy lockdown parties. As you had Jake doing COVID-19 lockdown parties and things of that shit ain't gonna be going on, man. All the mirth and all the game playing and bullshit's about to be wrapped up. Okay. It says, a man shall desire to go into a city and shall not be able, for because of their pride the city shall be troubled, the houses shall be destroyed, and men shall be afraid. We're coming into some very, very fearful times, man. You see, but those of us that have been doing the will of Yahweh Bashem Yahushai, going out on the highways and hedges teaching, making our lives a living sacrifice, as it says in Romans, the 12th chapter, and actually doing the work of Yahweh Bashem Yahushai, we're hoping and praying to Yahweh Bashem Yahushai that we're going to be protected in these times, because the scripture says that, redeeming the time, for the days are evil. We're living in some very, very evil, dark times, man, and it's just about to get worse. Okay? A man shall have no pity upon his neighbor, but shall destroy their houses with the sword and spoil their goods because of the lack of bread, the lack of food, right? And for great tribulation. You see that? That's what's getting ready to come. All right, you're going to have a lot of breaking and entering. You're going to have a lot of destroying taking place. You're going to have a lot of chaos ensuing on these streets, a lot of blood being shed. You know, it's about to get bad out here. You're going to have a lot of people that's going to die from famine. Okay, that's what's on the table is famine. You know, disease. A lot of people dropping dead. You know, you got something called the white plague. That's far stronger than the COVID ID that they saying. You see, so Esau getting ready to come out with everything, but it's really the sword of the Lord. Okay, it's really the sword of Yahweh Bashem Yahushua is getting ready to be unleashed on these people, but he's going to use his whipping stick Esau to bring it. It's biological. You're gonna have biological warfare taking place. You know, it's about to get hectic out here, man. You know, you already had parts of parts of California, whereas it was roughly around 100,000 residents that was out of power. You know, 100,000 people in California was out of power, man. You know, you had Cuba. You know, their power was locked. Their power was shut down. You know, Iraq. Their power was shut down. So the lights in America is really about to be cut off. You know, the light of the wicked shall be put out, as is written. It's going to be physically and metaphorically. All right. So I have this article here. It says lockdowns 2.0. IEA, which is the I think it's the IEA. It stands for International Energy Association. If I'm not mistaken, somebody could put the actual acronym in there. It says IEA rolls out sheltering plan as U.S.-Israel war on Iran hits oil supply. And this came out March 25th, so this was 3 days ago. All right, so I'm going to have the AI playback do it, you know, because I'm in the car right now, you know, but it's easier for the AI playback just to summarize it up. All right, so without further ado. Actually, hold on 1 second. All right, here we go.
AI playback is powered by Chrome.
The International Energy Agency has put forward a plan to reshape our energy consumption habits. What's the story?
Veronica Kirilenko's analysis highlights the IEA's Sheltering from Oil Shocks plan. It's a response to the energy crisis triggered by the U.S.-Israel war on Iran, and it proposes some pretty significant changes.
What kind of changes are we talking about?
The plan emphasizes demand restraint as a primary tool, with governments expected to take the lead in reducing consumption. This isn't just about increasing supply.
You see, it said governments taking the lead to reduce consumption. All right, governments taking the lead to reduce the consumption of oil. So you're going to have a lot of government regulations that are going to take place. Okay, and they're going to come in, like the scripture says, he had two horns like a lamb, but he spake as a dragon. You see, so they're going to come in as if they're on your side, you know, pretty much, for lack of better words, that they're here to help you, but they're really going to implement more draconian measures, man. All right, you ain't finna be able just to go out your house and freely enjoy going to the park and, you know, going on vacation here and, you know, going out to the bar, going here and there. Nah, a lot of that finna be done with, man. Okay, and good riddance, man. You know, these people here in America, you know, dwell without care, as the scripture says that this is the city that dwelleth without care, man. So you got a lot of people here that are still comfortable. But Yahweh Bashem Yahushua is getting ready to bring forth a whole lot of adversity. Okay? As a matter of fact, there's a forgetfulness of pleasure. Let me see if I can find that forgetfulness. I think that's how it goes. I think the word forgetfulness is in there. Yup, here we go. Call on Yahweh Bashem Yahushua. This is Sirach 11. And let's just start at verse 23, but the point is in verse 25. It says, say not, what profit is there of my service, and what good thing shall I have hereafter? It says again, say not, I have enough and possess many things, and what evil shall I have hereafter? So you have a lot of people that think that, you know, their goods or their money or their, you know, their wealth. You know, you have a lot of people who, a lot of preppers, for lack of better words, that have been prepping, you know, for these events. But, you know, at the end of the day, you know, Your food and your money is not ultimately going to save you. What's going to save you is Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushai. All right, that's ultimately who's going to be able to deliver you and save you out of this scenario and situation. All right, is Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushai dealing with you? So it says again, say not, I have enough and possess many things, and what evil, bad times, shall I have hereafter? You know, and this is the same parable that Yahweh Shai spoke about in Luke, I think it's Luke the 12th chapter, Luke the 14th chapter, one of those two, where Yahweh Shai talks about the parable of the man that stored up many goods, and he thought to build a bigger barn because he had so much, he didn't have enough space, you know, and said, and he said, thou fool, you know, and I'm summarizing it, thou fool, thy soul is required tonight. All right, it says, verse 25, it says, in the day of prosperity, there is a forgetfulness of affliction. You see, that's on the day when you're doing good and things are going good for you, you forget about affliction. You don't think about, you know, bad times when you got everything and everything going up, everything is on the up and up for you. It says, and in the day of affliction, there is no more remembrance of prosperity. You see that? Let's read that last part again. It says, and in the day of affliction, there is no more remembrance of prosperity. You see all that so-called prosperity and good times and things of that nature that you had, you know, and that you remembered, you know, is no longer going to be there. It's going to be a forgetfulness. It's going to be a forgetfulness of that, man, of your prosperity that you once had. You see? Because it's going to be so bad out here. It says, for it is an easy thing unto the Lord in the days of death to reward a man according to his ways. And a lot of people are going to be rewarded, all right, with destruction. Okay? You reap what you sow. See? And once again, a lot of these people are still very, very, very comfortable. You see? Because it really hasn't hit them yet. Yeah, you see the gas prices increasing. You know? Yeah, you see the gas prices increasing, and you know, but it really hasn't really fully hit yet though. Like let's be real. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, you know, when you go to the gas station, you know, it's taking more money now to fill up your tank. You know, if you had a half a tank and it used to take $15, you know, if you was at a half a tank and it took you about $15 to fill your tank back up, now it's taking about $20 to almost $25. You know, so yeah, it's a difference you're seeing, but it really hasn't fully hit yet though. It hasn't really fully hit. Whereas, you know, you're seeing the difference in the prices of food. You know, you're seeing fuel rationing taking place. You're seeing a lot of people at gas stations, you know, pretty much acting a fool. You know, where you're not really seeing the love of many waxing cold on that level yet. Whereas you got people actually getting put to death over some gas, over the last loaf of bread because due to hyperinflation. That hasn't happened yet, but it's coming, and it's going to come in its perfection. Verse 27: the affliction of an hour, you know. And how long is it going to take the Lord to destroy Babylon the Great? It's going to take the Lord 1 hour to completely erase America. So it says, the affliction of an hour maketh a man forget pleasure. See? So when this great affliction comes, man, all the pleasure that you remembered, all that's going to be wiped away because the only thing on your mind is going to be focused. The only thing that you're going to be focused on is trying to live. And you don't control the destiny of how your life goes, man. The scripture says that life and death is in the hand of the Lord. And in his end, his deeds shall be discovered. And that's when everybody's deeds will be made manifest. You know? If you was out here living a life that was pleasing to the eyes of the Lord or not, and a lot of people are going to be found lacking in that day. All right, so let's go back.
It's a coordinated effort to cut back across entire economies.
Are there specific measures that stand out?
Remote work, reduced speed limits, and restricted car access to roadways are key proposals.
See that remote work? All right, reduce speed limits and access. Let's rewind that back 10 seconds. Let's listen again.
Are there specific measures that stand out?
Remote work, reduced speed limits, and restricted car access to roadways are key.
Restricted car access to roadways. Why do you think they're in the plans of making 15-minute cities? Whereas within this 15-minute city, you have access to everything that you need. You know, they're all about now taking away gas powered cars and making everything electric. So whereas if they want to shut your car down, they can. You know. But once again, restricted access to roadways. What's that? A man shall desire to go into a city and shall not be able. They showed you that. Once again, they showed you that when the whole COVID-19 took place, man. People wasn't. Hey, the roads was clear. You know, I remember I was still driving around, but I remember I was going to work before they made us work from home. The roads was empty, completely clear, and I loved it. No more traffic jams. All that shit was done. But it's about to be checkpoints now. You ain't finna be able just to get in your car and move around.
Proposals. They're also suggesting businesses limit employee travel and adopt internal energy-saving policies.
How are governments and businesses reacting?
And what's that mean? It's going to mean a lot more layoffs are coming. A lot more people without jobs. Okay? A lot more people without jobs.
Countries are revisiting crisis playbooks with shorter work weeks and energy conservation measures. Businesses are limiting travel and implementing energy-saving policies. However, the article notes that the effectiveness of these interventions is questionable. The situation highlights the potential for significant global economic and lifestyle changes.
Indeed. Thank you.
Changes in the economy and lifestyles, man. You see? And this is going to lead to food rationing. This is going to lead to energy rationing. You know, your carbon footprint. All and what will this lead to? This will eventually lead to an ushering in of a new currency. Okay. So let's go here. I said, could energy lockdowns, and this is in ChatGPT, could energy lockdowns and the war with Iran and Israel leading to the closure of the Strait of Hormuz and the Suez Canal lead to an economic collapse and a new digital currency under the skin? It says, short answer, yes. Disruptions like that can trigger serious economic stress or even a recession. It says, but the idea that it would directly lead to mandatory digital currency implants under the skin is not supported by current evidence or policy direction, which of course they're going to say that. You know, they're going to say like, well, the chat done lightened up a little bit, because they had to make regulations due to the fact of how much information was coming out on the chat. It says, could closing Hormuz plus the Suez crash the economy? Right. Well, what's actually true right now? The Strait of Hormuz carries about 20% of global oil supply. Global trade is heavily dependent on shipping 80% of goods, right? Disruptions are already causing oil price spikes, fertilizer shortages, supply chain stress. If Hormuz plus the Red Sea/Suez routes are both disrupted, shipping costs surge, goods take longer routes around Africa, right? Fuel, food, and electricity prices rise. Everything will increase. Okay? This creates inflation plus economic slowdown, and in a worst case scenario, recession or severe global crisis is possible. Remember, they want to crash the global economy. This is going to be that's why they call it the Great Reset. Whereas they're going to reset everything. And all these nations are down for it. Okay? Don't get wooed, for lack of better words, due to the war that's happening with Israel, the United States, and Iran. Okay, now mind you, Yahweh Bashem Shai, he's the one that's in control. He's the one that controls the minds of kings. But remember, this is all a part of a plan that they got going on. Iran's in on it too. The leaders, when I say that Iran, the leaders of Iran are in on it too. Okay? It says, would that automatically cause total economic collapse? It says not necessarily. There are buffers in place, strategic oil reserves, which, these are getting ran out, right? Alternative suppliers, US, Russia, etc. Which now you have the America reduce their sanctions on Russia due to the closure of the Strait of Hormuz, due to this war. It says rerouting trade already happening, but it's taking longer for goods to get there. When you have when supply is low and demand is higher, that's going to cause inflation. It's going to cause prices to increase. It says more realistic outcomes: high inflation, slower economy, and market volatility. right? A complete collapse, like total system failure, would require a long-term shutdown, months, which we're already in. Let's see, we're almost in April. All right, April 1st will be on Wednesday, so we're already a month in. Yeah, today marks a full month that this whole situation between Iran and Israel has been taking place, because it happened February 28th. Today's March 28th. Long-term shutdown, months, multiple global crises at once, and financial system breakdown, which once again, there will be a system collapse. It says, could this lead to a digital currency system? This part has some grounding, but not in the extreme form. Governments are already exploring CBDCs, central bank digital currencies, and Great Britain, all right, is getting ready to roll these out actually this year. All right, digital payment systems replacing cash. Reasons: easier control of money supply, faster transactions, crisis management tools. You see, crisis management tools, whereas they can control it better digitally. There ain't gonna be no more hiding money under the mattress or having money, cash stash. That's not gonna matter. All right. What about currency implanted under the skin? It says this is where things shift from realistic to speculative. And of course, they're gonna say that. Microchip implants used voluntary for building access, payments, and small trials. What does not exist? No government policy requiring implants, which they will make they will make it mandatory. He calls it all, as it says, both small and great, rich or poor, free or bond, to receive a mark in the right hand or forehead. No global system mandating chips for buying or selling, right? Which is happening right now, but they already got the chip is already here. Once again, they just need the correct situation, which this looks like the situation that they're using to implement it. No evidence of this being tied to economic collapse planning. Of course, they're not going to tell you that. I mean, we know, but they're not going to sit here and tell you, oh yeah, in 2026 we're going to crash the economy and make the microchip mandatory. They're not going to sit here and openly say that. All right, but you had what's his name, John Russo, if I'm not mistaken, that he had an interview with Nick Rockefeller, and then that was Nick Rockefeller pretty much told him that that's the end goal, is to microchip everybody. All right. So, this digital currency with the energy lockdowns, this could definitely lead to, a system of total control, which is what we've been saying through the Spirit, beginning with the apostles on down, man. All right, so I just want to do a quick lesson on this. I pray this lesson was edifying to the elect. Once again, I want to give all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem HaKadosh. Double honors to the apostles, bishops, and elders, great millstone, that taught us his truth and that's what teaching his truth, and much peace, love, and salutation to the elect. Until next time, Lord willing, I say shalom.